Good Sunday morning. For more than 77 years, Meet the Press has had a history of shining a light on people who influence our politics from outside of Washington. From Jackie Robinson to Robert Frost, Jane Fonda to Billy Graham, Carl Sagan and Gloria Steinem. This morning, we take a look back on our special series, Meet the Moment, and the conversations we've had this year with the voices outside of our politics, shaping conversations that matter. Swimmer Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time, joined Meet the Press for a candid conversation about his battle with anxiety and depression and his advocacy for other athletes. Ruby Bridges, who at just 6 years old became a civil rights icon simply for attending her school, which was newly desegregated in 1960, spoke with us about the unfolding debate on book banning and whose stories can be told. J.J. Velasquez, who was exonerated after spending 24 years in prison, wrongfully convicted for a murder he did not commit, joined veteran Dateline producer Dan Slepian for a conversation about their more than two-decade fight to free Velasquez. Olympic gold medalist Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird marked what may be the biggest year on record for women's sports in America. And today's show co-anchor Savannah Guthrie sat down for a very special conversation about her relationship to her faith. But we begin with Michael Phelps. With 23 gold medals, he is undoubtedly one of the greatest competitors alive. But that doesn't mean he doesn't have his struggles. In retirement, he's been using his voice to speak out about facing depression and anxiety and advocating for more mental health resources for athletes. I sat down with Phelps near his home in Arizona for a Meet the Moment conversation about how he's doing in his own mental health journey and what more needs to be done in the Olympic community. You have dedicated so much time to advocating for, to speaking out about mental health, your mental health, the importance of getting help if you are struggling. Before we dive into your advocacy, how are you doing right now, Michael?
I'm good. I mean, obviously, I have my days like everyone does, right? We go through ups and downs, and that's just life. I feel like I have more tools now to prepare me through the bumps or the roller coasters, like I call them, that I go through in my life. And yeah, I'm enjoying it, right? Like, you know, being retired again and being able to talk about mental health, which is something that, you know, personally I struggle with almost every single day. And you know, depression and anxiety aren't just going to disappear, right? These are things that I have to adapt, and I have adapted throughout my life, and they are a part of my life. They're always going to be a part of my life. So it's finding the best way every single day to be the best version of me.
You just said something really powerful, which is that you still struggle with depression
Sure.
and anxiety every day.
Yeah, I mean, there are times. I mean, there are, you know, 10-day spells where every day is a struggle. But for me, it's what can I control in that moment? Throughout my career, I looked at myself as a swimmer and an athlete. Now I can look in a mirror and see a person, somebody that has feelings and emotions.
I do think it's striking to hear you say you saw yourself as a swimmer,
Sure.
as an Olympian, not necessarily as a person. When did you first realize you were really struggling with depression?
I would say probably 2004. 2004 was my first taste of post-Olympic depression. You know, coming off such a high, and it's basically you get to like the edge of the cliff, and you're like, cool, now what? I guess I got to wait 4 more years to have the chance to do it again, right? So, and for those who don't have a successful Olympics, those 4 years can feel like an absolute eternity. So for me, 2004 is my first, 2008 was my second taste of post-Olympic depression, because coming off of that high after doing something you set out to do your whole entire life. Right? Like my goal was to do something no one else had ever done before.
Did you know it was depression, or did you just think I'm feeling a little off?
I think at that point, you know, like I'll say as a male athlete, you know, like I could tell something was off. But I think I saw it as a sign of weakness, and if I shared anything about it, then it would give my competitors an edge. And I'm not trying to do that, right? Like, I don't want to give my competitors an edge. I'm trying to be better than anybody, period, has ever been. So for me, I looked at it as weakness. So for me, I had to learn that vulnerability is a good thing. And it was scary at first, but I learned that vulnerability just means change. And for me, it was a great change.
But I do want to go back to that moment in 2014
Sure.
when you got a DUI. You've spoken about this quite extensively. You say you were effectively locked in a room for 4 days.
Yeah, 3-4 days.
You had suicidal thoughts. Your family did rally around you. How did you find the strength to get help in that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think in that moment for me, there's a lot of shame. And I just didn't want to really, I had the thought of it was me that was putting my family through all of this stress and all of this. And I was just like, okay, maybe it's better if I just leave. And at the time, I was prescribed Ambien from our doctors on our team trips. And I was happy I only had three pills left. I took them all that night, and I woke up the next morning, and I didn't eat anything, drink anything for 2 or 3 days. And after those 2 or 3 days, I didn't really want to talk to anybody, didn't want to see anybody. It was kind of just to the point where I knew I needed help, right? The thoughts that I was having were too much, and they were overwhelming, and they were scary. So for me at that point, I just checked myself into a treatment center.
For 45 days?
45 days.
What happened in those 45 days that made you stronger?
Yeah, I basically got ripped apart. And I say that in imagine a motherboard of a computer, and you just take everything apart, and you just kind of rebuild and talk about whether it's, my childhood, things that I'm having difficulty times with, good things, and kind of just piecing it all back together.
But you emerged stronger, not just emotionally, but as a competitor.
Yeah.
Well.
Look, I'm lucky to be here. I'm lucky to have everything I have. So I'm going to go down swinging no matter what. I just had a conversation with, I might get choked up here. I just had a conversation with a buddy of mine the other day.
Take your time. It's okay.
So for me, this is all fresh. So a friend of mine, he's my mental health buddy, and he knows who I'm talking about. I'll just say it. Okay, so Jay Glazer and I we're mental health buddies. We both struggle, and when we're both having our bad days, we go through similar ups and downs, and we do similar things when we're down, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And we both had this conversation the other day, because when it happens, for me, I reach out to him. When it happens for him, he reached out to me. And I have a couple friendships like that where we've kind of really been able to form a bond. And to what we were saying before is, I literally sent a text to him, and I was like, I'm never quitting, ever in my life. That's not who I am. When
you say I'm not a quitter, you mean you're not quitting?
Anything. I won't quit anything. I will never give up at anything that, there are so many goals of mine that I have and want to accomplish, and no matter how hard it gets, I'm never giving up. There's a reason why I was able to win 23 Olympic gold medals, right? So I'm determined, I'm stubborn, a laundry list of things. I just don't give up.
What is your advice, Michael, to someone who is watching this, who's struggling, who feels alone, who doesn't feel like they have the strength or community to help them?
I would say, one, reach out to a loved one that you can trust. And I would say, again, also, one, reach out to somebody you can trust. Two, I would say you're not alone, without question. There are times, even though I have a Rolodex of people I can reach out to, there are times where I feel like I'm all alone.
Still,
yeah. It's those days, but I still know that I'm all right, pick up the phone. Who can I call? Just go through and make a phone call.
The U.S. Olympic Committee has said that it has made advances, particularly in the wake of your speaking out, other athletes speaking out. How do you assess the changes that the U.S. Olympic Committee has made? Has the committee gone far enough? What do you want to see happen that hasn't?
There needs to be more. Flat out. The ABC organizations have done some steps in the right direction to get help and care that us as athletes need, but they're not doing everything they can, and that upsets me.
What do you want to see them do specifically?
I want to see them put the athletes first. That's it. Nothing else to say.
And that means providing better mental health care?
It's everything. The athletes need to be first.
And you didn't feel that way when you were an Olympian?
I walked into training rooms at the USOC and couldn't get care. This is 6 months before the 2008 Olympic Games.
You were denied care?
I was denied anything. I couldn't get access. No physical trainer would help me. So if that's happening with me, it's happening with others too. So if we're supposed to be these athletes that are representing our country, then put the athletes first.
If one of the representatives of the Olympic Committee were sitting here instead of me, what would you say to them?
Nothing that can be recorded. There's just a lot of emotions there. There's so much passion for me, and I want what's right. Period. That's all. And I won't stop until everything is done that I think needs to be done.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.